Greetings and welcome to the Dare to Create show with Mitzi Linton. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Will Tuttle. Hi, Will.
Hi, Mitzi. Good to be here.
And Dr. Will, you've written a wonderful book called The World Peace Diet, and you're going to share a little bit about that today with us. So what are the main ideas in this book?
The main ideas in the World Peace Diet are that all of us have been born into a culture that has a hidden core mentality that is invisible. We don't talk about it, and since we don't talk about it, we're not able to address it. But this hidden core is injected into us as little kids growing up in the culture, and it continues on throughout our entire lives. And it's essentially a mentality of reducing beings to things, to commodities that we just use. It's a mentality of exploitation and of reductionism, of exclusion. And it really gets its claws into us basically through the foods that we are all forced to eat in this culture, foods that are derived from animals who are hyper-confined and brutalized and killed: pigs, chickens, cows, ducks, turkeys, geese, and fish. Most people don't realize, but we are in the United States killing 75 million animals every single day for food.
Every single day?
Yeah, every single day.
Can you repeat that again?
It's hard to even imagine.
Million?
75 million animals a day in the United States. And so someone who decides to remove themselves from causing that kind of suffering, which is what I have done, and Madeline, my wonderful wife, we decided, actually for us it's been almost 30 years now, to eat a plant-based diet. And the beauty of that is that every day we are, at least in relationship to most of the people living in the culture, we are saving lives, right? We're not paying someone to confine and mutilate and kill pigs and cows and chickens and fish and other animals so that we can eat them for food. And so the side benefits of that are what I talk about in the book, the idea that when we make this choice, and we make it over and over again every day, it's a wonderful thing, to eat a plant-based diet for ethical reasons, then we begin to be part of the solution rather than being part of the problem on this planet. And the problem is sort of this multi-headed hydra. You know, there's all these different things that come out of eating animal foods. There's human starvation, and this is an interesting thing. I'll just say this right here because it's very interesting. You know, right now, today, on this planet, we're growing enough food, enough grain, enough legumes to feed between 12 and 15 billion people. And so this whole thing we hear about, oh, there's just not enough people. We have roughly 1 billion people who are starving to death every single day in the United States, and either starving or malnourished, cannot get enough to eat. They're hungry, chronically hungry. And then on the other side, we have roughly 1 billion people who are chronically suffering from obesity and from diseases of eating excess animal protein and fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol that come from eating animal foods. They're suffering from diseases like diabetes, osteoporosis, heart disease, cancer, kidney disease. These are all diseases of eating excess animal food. So this huge, millions of pounds of grain are being fed to fatten up animals while people are starving. So this is one huge problem, is that the inescapable cruelty, not only to the animals, but to the human beings who are starving. And so there's that dimension. There's the cruelty to the animals themselves, who are confined, who are mutilated, who have their babies stolen, who are live lives of extreme misery and then terror and pain when they're killed. There's the metaphysical dimension of that. We're not only eating huge amount of toxins when we eat animal foods, because all the toxins that are in the grains and legumes that these animals are eating, plus they're also forced to eat other animals, plus they're also forced to eat the manure of other animals and the flesh of other animals. You have cows and pigs eating chickens and fish eating the manure of chicken, and chicken eating cow, eating pigs, and I mean they just, and dogs and cats being fed to all these and so forth, and then the dogs and cats are eating these animals too. So it's this really very perverse feeding of animals to animals. So people who eat that are getting huge amounts of toxins when they eat that, but also the metaphysical toxins. We're eating fear and terror and panic and depression and insomnia and all these things. And then there's the environmental effects, which I could talk a long time, but basically it's sublimely inefficient to grow huge amounts of grain, which requires cutting down forests. It requires destroying habitat for wildlife, and destroying habitat for not only to grow fields of grain, monocultures of grain, corn and mainly corn and soybeans, but also to graze the animals. And so this causes huge, enormous problems with global warming, with species, this loss of genetic diversity and species extinction, water pollution, air pollution. Someone, as my wife often likes to point out, Madeline, she says, someone, and this is true, this is actually the Cornell University did a study, and there's a number of other studies that have been done. And actually, World Watch Institute just did another study that in terms of just the greenhouse gas footprint, that 51% of the greenhouse gas footprint in the world, especially in the United States, is caused by livestock production. That's more. So that's more than everything else put together. I mean, all the travel, all the heating of houses, all the industrial use of energy. It takes an enormous amount of energy to grow meat and to create dairy products and eggs, and a huge amount of natural gas, petroleum. It's basically the little comparison is that a vegan who's driving a Hummer has a smaller footprint than someone eating the standard American diet who's on a bicycle.
Wow.
Basically, that's the basic thing. So it just takes enormous amounts of energy and land and water. It's about between 12 and 20 to 1, basically, in terms of between 12 and 20 vegans can be fed on the same amount of land and water and petroleum as one person eating the standard American diet. So
that's amazing. So I want to touch on right now is how many, not how many, but what are the benefits of someone deciding to go vegan? What solutions can they have, and what problems can we solve?
The benefits are inherent in what I was just saying. I mean, we become part of the solution. So the benefits are, I think, essentially, the benefits come from just feeling much better about oneself. Feel more joy, more happiness, more inner peace. I just got a call the other day from this couple who got a copy of the World Peace Diet, and they both decided after reading the book that they would go vegan. And he called up and he wouldn't get off the phone. He kept saying, "I just want you to know that before we read this book together and we went vegan, we were always fighting. We had arguments. Our relationship was just a mess. We just didn't get along. And now we've read the World Peace Diet. We're vegans, and we just don't fight anymore. We're just happy together. We just live happiness. We're just happy together." Now that's one of the great things. Is we just feel more at peace. We feel more like what I am is worthy of respect, because I will not be respected if I'm not respecting other beings. And when we eat animal foods, we are basically saying, I don't care about you fish, I don't care about you chickens, I don't care about you pigs and cows, I don't care about you, the people who have to do this horrible work and stab animals all day. I don't care. I'm going to make you kill animals for me. I'm being very cruel to my brothers and sisters to make them do that. I'm being cruel to starving people. I'm being cruel to future generations who are going to inherit an earth that's been devastated by livestock production. And when we're cruel and heartless, we're not happy. That's the basic thing. If we engender in ourselves any kind of feeling of caring and concern for other living beings, then joy and a sense of beauty begin to arise.
What I really like about this book too, Will, is that you really are very compassionate for not only beings of whether they're flying beings or two-legged or four-legged beings, but you have a very gentle message too, and I love too in that you say that if you're saying no to one thing, if you're saying no to, because people often have said, isn't it hard to say no to meat or no to dairy? But you're saying you're actually saying yes to a compassionate life.
Right.
And so that's what we're all about here, is really creating a compassionate life. And so, Dr. Will Tuttle, thank you so much for being on the Dare to Create show today. And just everyone watching out there, if you'd like to get Dr. Will's book, you can get it at.
worldpeacediet.org or Amazon or willtuttle.com, any of these websites.
Excellent. And so, everyone, dare to create a life you love and a world you desire to live in.